So throughout my time since starting this channel a few months ago, I've come to notice there is a wide spectrum of Bulls fan sentiment, from overly delusional fans with lofty expectations to incredibly toxic fans. No matter what the Bulls do, they always manage to find something to put a negative spin on it. And I don't think any fan base is immune to this. I'm sure that's likely the case across all fan bases, but obviously for me, it's heightened in my observance of it since I'm a big Bulls fan and I run a Bulls channel. Now, last night, Casey Johnson, the Bulls beat writer, came out with an article that briefly talked about the current state of the Bulls and asked a question of the Bulls fans in whether your Bulls fandom glass is half full or half empty. And it got me thinking, where do I stand on this spectrum? And where do you guys also fall on this as well? And that's what I wanted to talk about in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. So the article that Casey Johnson came out was shortly after the Bulls lost last night against the Jazz, which if you caught my post-game video, you know that despite that being a pretty crushing loss for the Bulls, and then they really did have a chance to win this one and upset the best team in the league, there were a lot of positives to take away from it as well, namely that you can tell the offense is starting to flow much better with the new additions to the lineup. The Bulls are significantly reducing their number of turnovers, they're rebounding better, they're actually hustling on defense, still a lot to improve obviously in that regard, but overall things are looking better. Now, as most of you probably know, I host a live chat for each of the games on this channel. We also have one in the Discord as well, and we get a lot of mixed comments from fans that are incredibly frustrated with the Bulls, calling for Billy Donovan to be fired or to trade everyone ASAP, while others are very positive even when the Bulls are really struggling. Now, I'm a bit in the middle on this because when a game is happening, I do sometimes get wrapped up in the heat of the moment and can react negatively or positively for that matter based on how the Bulls are performing. But I think my overall outlook anyway for this team is by far more positive than it has been in a long time. And the reason for that is, for the first time in a very long time, I finally feel that we have a front office that is competent and capable of being one step ahead of most other front offices in the league. Now, I know it is premature to say that because they haven't even been on the job for a whole year. I recognize that. And even myself at the beginning of the season, when I saw a lot of Bulls fans praising Arturas and Mark Eversley and stating that, you know, in Acme we trust, you know, I was a bit skeptical, or more so, let's take a step back, guys. These guys haven't even done anything other than sign Garrett Temple. That was sort of my viewpoint on it. You know, and that they need to really prove their worth before I'm just going to start praising them for the incredible job that they've done. But ever since then, mainly at the trade deadline, this front office has shown something we haven't seen from the previous two regimes, and that's not being afraid to make big moves, take risks in a quest to win rather than just building for the future. Now, you can argue all you want whether the Vucevic trade was actually a good move or a bad move, because the Bulls gave up future assets for a 30-year-old big man. I get that, on a team that wasn't necessarily in win now mode, you know, type of scenario. And I've made other videos on this trade and why this trade definitely was the right move despite losing draft assets, so I won't go into that too much here. But the trade for Vucevic, whether it ends up working out or not, has so many implications on the future for the Bulls. And what I mean by that is it sends a direction to the players and the league as a whole, really, that this front office is the type of front office that is focused on winning and winning for the now. They're not one of these front offices that is centered around rebuilding, and if the rebuild doesn't work out, you just go with another rebuild. No, this front office wants to be known as an executive team that always wants to be in a state of contention, because at the end of the day, the best players in the league want to play on a team that is focused on winning now and contending now. They don't want to play for a team that is always rebuilding. So some of you guys may not like the Vucevic trade because of his age, or the fact that the Bulls' problems still aren't solved because they keep losing, but the fact of the matter is, a move like this shows that the front office means business, and they're looking to make moves now to help improve the roster. And if you're a free agent, these are the type of moves you like to see a front office making when you're considering other teams to play for, a management team that is showing a clear sense of direction and wanting to contend in the near term. Now, the Bulls' struggles recently have been disappointing. As a fan, it's frustrating to watch your team lose more often than not, especially when most of us are reactionary fans who want to see instant results when a big trade was made like the Bulls did before the deadline. And when we don't see those instant results, we start to get concerned and react negatively and go to the doom and gloom state and think that this franchise is cursed. And as a Bulls fan, we've been patient. It's hard to continue being patient when this franchise really hasn't had all that much success since the 90s dynasty, and injuries robbed us of the potential titles in the early 2010s with Derrick Rose. So it's been a long time waiting, multiple rebuilds, unfortunate injuries, and we finally want to see our team winning and being a top team in the league again. And when we get our hopes up with changes being made that don't show results right away, naturally we're going to get frustrated. So I don't blame some Bulls fans for having a glass half empty mentality just because we've grown to be accustomed to having high expectations of the Bulls, all to be but disappointed for a number of years now. And that can weigh on your sentiment after a while. But for me, my glass is certainly half full, which it generally is, even when the Bulls were really struggling the past couple of seasons. But I can honestly say that this is probably the fullest it's ever been in a long time, despite the current losing streak that the Bulls are on, and despite the issues that the Bulls still need to resolve even after the trade deadline, mainly on offense and on playmaking. And that's because, again, it all ties back to the new era of the Bulls under a new front office that is aggressively looking to win and to turn this franchise around. I really do feel as long as the Bulls can secure a quality point guard, a true point guard this offseason, that's going to set them up for success right away. Because when you have two all-stars that are incredibly gifted offensively in Lavine and Vucevic, and you add in a playmaker and facilitator who can get those guys set up and draw plays for them and feeding them the ball on a nightly basis, you're going to position yourself, or really you're going to put yourself in a position to win most nights. So yes, my glass, if I had a glass anyway, is probably more than half full. I would say it's all the way full. I do have my concerns, and there are a number of moves that I question when it comes to this franchise, but just as I'm sure most of you guys do, right? But at the end of the day, this team is making the steps in the right direction to be well positioned in the near term, which hopefully translates to success in the long term, even after Vucevic and Lavine have passed their peaks. But I want to know what you guys think, though. What's your answer to Casey Johnson's question? Is your Bulls fandom glass half full or half empty? Let me know in the comments. I'll also likely put a community poll for this question. And I've actually had a lot of community poll questions recently, so I might have to do a whole video of all of the results of the ones that I've put out recently. And some of the responses have been a little bit surprising, so they're worth calling out. Be sure to subscribe though, guys, if you're a Bulls fan, as I post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in. As always, guys, really appreciate you, and I will catch you in the next one.